everybody, I'm DH, and with me today I've got my good friend and buddy recurring. Say hi, Guy.
Hi, guys.
And it's the Halloween special.
Woo!
So, what are we doing this year?
Spoopy stories.
We did that last year.
Factual spoopy stories.
For you, maybe. Anyway, we have each selected 3 spoopy stories,
which I'm sure will delight and enthrall you.
So without further ado, onto the stories. Legend of Stingy Jack. Stingy Jack was a miserable old drunk who loved playing tricks on anyone and everyone. One dark Halloween night, Jack ran into the devil himself in a local public house. Jack tricked the devil by offering his soul in exchange for one last drink. The devil quickly turned himself into a sixpence to pay the bartender, but Jack immediately snatched the coin and deposited it into his pocket, next to a silver cross he was carrying. Thus the devil could not change back, and Jack refused to allow the devil to go free until the devil had promised not to claim Jack's soul for 10 years. The devil agreed, and 10 years later, Jack again came across the devil while out walking on a country road. The devil tried collecting what he was due, but Jack, thinking quickly, said, "I'll go, but before I do, will you get me an apple from that tree?" The devil, thinking he had nothing to lose, jumped into the tree to retrieve an apple. As soon as he did, Jack placed crosses all around the trunk of the tree, thus trapping the devil once again. This time, Jack made the devil promise that he would not take his soul when he finally died. Seeing no way around his predicament, the devil grudgingly agreed. When Stingy Jack eventually passed away several years later, he went to the gates of heaven, but was refused entrance because of his life of drinking, and because he had been so tight-fisted and deceitful. So, Jack then went down to hell to see if the devil could find out whether it was possible to gain entrance into the depths of hell. But the devil kept his promise that he had made to Jack years earlier and would not let him enter. "But where can I go?" asked Jack. "Back to where you came from," replied the devil. The way was windy and very dark. Stingy Jack pleaded with the devil to at least provide him with a light to help him find his way. The devil, as a final gesture, tossed Jack an ember straight from the fires of hell. Jack placed the ember in a hollowed-out turnip, one of Jack's favourite foods, which he always carried around with him whenever he could steal one. From that day forward, Stingy Jack has been doomed to roam the earth without a resting place, with only his lit turnip to light the way in the darkness.
Now this is the tale of the Faceless Lady of Beverly Castle. Beverly Castle sits prominently on the shores of Great Island in Cork Harbour. It is said that in the 17th century, a Margaret Hodnett lived there. Mirrors were a status symbol when the wealthy at that time, and Margaret was known for her love of those to remind her of her renowned beauty. She had an on-off relationship with the local lord called Clon Rockenbury, who asked for her hand in marriage many times, but was refused. Eventually, Rockenbury decided that the humiliation was enough and raised a small army and go to the castle to take her by force. He thought the Hodnetts, used to a luxurious life, would not withstand a siege. However, they surprised him by holding out for a full year before surrendering. When he entered the castle, Rockenbury was shocked to see the state of Margaret, skeletal and starved, a shadow of her former self, her beauty gone. Out of rage, Rockenbury smashed her favourite mirror to pieces. As he did so, one of the Hodnetts killed him with a sword. After these events, Margaret descended into insanity. She was said to have sought out mirrors constantly to check if her beauty had returned. It never did. She died in old age at the castle, and her troubled ghost appears as a lady in white, sometimes with a veiled face and sometimes with no face at all. Those who have seen her say that looks at a spot on the wall, then rubs it as if looking at her reflection. Apparently, one stone on the castle's wall has been rubbed smooth over the years, perhaps in that spot where her mirror used to hang. Beverly has largely been unoccupied since the 19th century, but is currently being renovated. I wonder what other mysteries they'll find in this building.
Lady in the Veil. He had not expected to meet a woman of his dream, but there she was, strolling along the moonlight beside the cemetery. Carlos quickened his pace until he was level with her, hoping for a glimpse of her face under the veil. Carlos made a few remarks about the beautiful night and the lovely weather, anything to keep her talking. She stopped abruptly and turned to face him. He caught a glimpse of dark eyes glinting behind the veil. "What is it you want?" she asked. "A date, señorita, just a date." Carlos beamed at her. She paused and said, "I do not know. Ask me again in this place at this time tomorrow night, and we shall see." Carlos' heart leapt into his chest. So she was playing hard to get? Well, fair enough. He would see her tomorrow, and then she would fall into his arms. The next day dragged for the infatuated Carlos, and he had trouble concentrating on his work. But at last he was free and running the few blocks to his home to change into a suitable outfit. He could barely contain himself, and he reached the cemetery a few minutes early. She was not there yet, so Carlos entertained himself by picturing his beautiful bride in their new home. Suddenly, there she was, in front of him. The moonlight sparkled off her veil. Carlos was enchanted. They talked for hours, standing in front of the graveyard. She was as witty as she was beautiful, and Carlos begged her for a date. "We will go out tomorrow night," she said. "I will send you a letter with the place and time." Carlos kissed her hand and floated away. So happy he wanted to sing for joy. Carlos was absolutely useless at work the next day. After work, he rushed home and found a letter in his mailbox. Eagerly he read it, not pausing to wonder how she knew where he lived. Then he ran next door to show Diego, his closest cousin. Diego went pale when he read her signature, Rosa González. This must be the same Rosa that died in a car crash last year. Diego tried to warn Carlos, but Carlos was already in love. That night, Carlos hurried to the cemetery and Diego followed. Certain that his cousin was over his head. Carlos bounded over to Rosa. "At last we go out," he cried to her. "But first, my love, show me your face." At his words, Rosa pulled aside the veil. Back at the gate, Diego gave a gasp of shock, for she had a dissected face of a skeleton. He was frozen to the spot by the power of the evil spectre, unable to warn Carlos. Looking down, Carlos only saw a glamour the ghost was projecting. As the skeleton's withered arms trapped him, the veil on his eyes was lifted and he realized, in one heart-skipping moment, the abomination he was kissing. The ground opened up, and with a laugh of triumph, the spectre pulled him down and into her tomb. The earth closed over Carlos and Rosa. Diego, freed from the ghost's spell, ran to the cemetery, shouting his cousin's name in terror. But it was too late. Carlos was dead, locked for all time in Rosa's arms.
The murdered jester of Malahide Castle. King Henry II of England had Malahide Castle built in the 1100s, and the place boasts many hauntings. In its early days, opulent medieval feasts were held there, and such events would not be complete without minstrels and jesters providing entertainment. One of the jesters, nicknamed Puck, is thought to haunt the castle. It is said that he saw a lady prisoner at the feast and fell in love with her. Perhaps while trying to help her escape, he was apparently stabbed to death outside the castle, and in his dying breath vowed to haunt the place forever. There have been many sightings of him, and many visitors say they have seen him and photographed his spectral features, appearing in the thick ivy that grows on the walls. Places such as Malahide Castle seem to be a magnet for strange and paranormal activities. As many other supernatural occurrences have been noted in its long histories. In more recent years, a portrait of a lady dressed in white had hung in the great hall of the castle. At night, it is said her ghostly figure would walk out of the painting and wander through the halls. Might she have been the one seeking Puck out to rescue her from the prison? Who knows? For there's no information on this lady, or who the artist was. The only thing is of her portrait that looks full of sorrow and sadness.
The Bloody Mary Ritual. We were having a sleepover at my house that Saturday night. Me and my 4 best friends, Alex, Bianca, Sabrina, and Lacey. We made cookies, watched movies, did our hair, makeup. By midnight, we'd run out of planned activity. It was time to improvise. Let's try that Bloody Mary thing, Lacey suggested. Alex, who was sitting cross-legged on her sleeping bag, said, "What's the Bloody Mary thing?" Sabrina, who was lounging on top of her own sleeping bag at the far side of the room, said, "Come on, Alex, everyone knows the Bloody Mary thing. You stand in front of the bathroom mirror with a lighted candle and say the witch's name 3 times. Then her ghost appears, looking just the way she did when she died, all horrible and bloody with scars all over her face." "She sounds gorgeous. Just why, exactly, do you think I would want to see the ghost of Bloody Mary?" Alex asked skeptically. "Why not?" I said from my place on the pull-out couch in the living room. "I've always wanted to see a ghost. Could be fun. Besides, I've heard she can tell your future if you summon her correctly. And if you don't summon her correctly, or if she's in a bad mood, the ghost of Bloody Mary will rip your eyes out and leave your face horribly scarred," Lacey said dramatically. "Or you'll be found dead with claw marks all over your face and body. Or you could be trapped in the mirror with Bloody Mary for eternity," Sabrina added. "Oh, sounds like fun. Disfigurement, death, or entrapment. What a fabulous way to spend eternity," Alex said sarcastically. "Where do I sign up?" "It's a load of crap," Bianca said. She tried to balance on one foot on the pull-out couch. "It's just a story told to scare little kids. Bloody Mary isn't real." "I've heard it's real," I said. "My friend Katie tried it once and saw the ghost in the mirror. Bloody Mary told Katie she would grow up and she would become a research doctor who cures cancer and saves lots of lives and wins the Nobel Prize." "Hogswash," said Bianca dismissively. "There's only one way to know for sure," said Sabrina. "Come on, let's try it." I ran to the supply closet to get a candle and matches for all of us. Even Alex, disbelieving Bianca, crowded into our large downstairs bathroom. "This is a bad idea," Alex said nervously as we lit the candle. "No, it's not. It's the perfect thing to do on a sleepover," I said. "Like telling ghost stories, only this one might be true. Here, you hold the candle." I thrust the flickering candle into Alex's hand. Once the candle was lit, Bianca turned all the bathroom lights off. As we stood before the bathroom mirror, I told everyone the story of Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary was the name of an evil witch that lived back in colonial times. The witch used her black arts to make her young by killing a bunch of girls in her village. When the villagers discovered Bloody Mary was behind the murders, they burned her at the stake. Bloody Mary used mirrors to help locate and enchant her victims, and she cursed all the mirrors when the villagers executed her, so that anyone chanting her name 3 times would be pulled into the mirror with her to spend eternity in the flames. By the time I finished the eerie tale, all my friends were looking a little nervous, but we were excited too. Maybe we'd see a real ghost. The candle in Alex's hand flickered for a moment and then steadied as the 5 of us chanted Bloody Mary's name 3 times in front of the bathroom mirror. I held my breath, not knowing what to expect, and wondered what Bloody Mary might say about my future. Maybe I would marry Robbie when I graduated high school. Robbie was a cute boy I liked in my science class. The 5 of us waited tensively as we gazed without blinking at our faces reflected in the glass. The only sound was the trickling of a wind-up clock my mum kept in the bathroom. I strained my eyes, hoping to see through the mirror into some nether realm that I both dreaded and hoped might be there. Finally, Bianca said, "Nothing's happening, let's just get out of here." She reached for the doorknob and turned it. The door wouldn't open. The door wasn't locked when we started the ritual. I knew this for a fact. I checked the door in case we needed to make a quick getaway. After all, there was the possibility, however faint, that it might not just be a scary story told to frighten little kids. I pushed the door, pushed Bianca aside and unlocked it. When I tried to turn the knob, the door wouldn't open. Something, or do I mean someone, was holding it shut. Suddenly, Alex screamed and pointed to the mirror. I whirled away from the locked door and saw a glowing white figure staring at us from the mirror. Her face was twisted with malice and flames seemed to flicker around her. In one hand she held a bloody knife. It was Bloody Mary. We all screamed and my friends backed away from the mirror, all but Alex, who stood frozen by the bathroom sink with the candle still clutched in her shaking hand. All of a sudden, Bloody Mary lunged forward, her knife coming straight out of the mirror and striking Alex fiercely in the face. Long scratches appeared on Alex's cheeks as she staggered back with a gasp of pain, hands coming up to protect her face. A wave of heat and anger poured out of the mirror in a blast that blew us head over heels. My forehead struck the wall and I fell senseless to the floor. I woke in darkness a few moments later and groped around desperately for the light switch. When I turned it on, I found Lacey unconscious beside me and Alex blacked out beside the bathroom sink, with deep scratches all over her arms, legs and face. Sabrina was huddled sobbing behind the toilet. I pulled her out, gasped when I saw she was also covered in scratches. She'd been standing too close to the mirror and the ghost had knifed her also. I shook Lacey and Alex away and the 4 of us clung together weeping and shaking with fear. "I told you this was a bad idea," Alex gasped. My eyes suddenly widened when I realised there was only 4 of us crouching in the bathroom. "Where's Bianca?" I cried in alarm. I leapt to my feet and stared at the bathroom mirror, but it only reflected the wall and my frightened faint. Oh dear Lord, what if Bianca was pulled into the mirror with Bloody Mary? Would we ever see her again? What would I tell her parents? "Try the door again," Alex gasped, lunging forward to grab the knob. It opened immediately, and apparently the door was released from its lock spell as soon as Bloody Mary disappeared. We ran to the living room, hoping to find Bianca huddled in her sleeping bag. She wasn't there. We searched all over the downstairs for her. I was ready to rake my parents and confess the whole stupid mess when Lacey gave a yell from the laundry room. Bianca was lying unconscious beside the washing machine, with blood and scratches all over her face. The ghost had scratched a message deep into the flesh of her right forearm. It said, "I am real." My stomach lurched and I wanted to throw up when I saw Bloody Mary's message. Instead, I knelt down and shook my friend's shoulder, trying to wake her up. After nearly a minute of calling her name, Bianca finally opened her eyes. She groaned and rolled into a sitting position. "What happened to you?" I asked, dabbing her cuts with a handtowel from the bathroom. "After that horrible ghost knocked the four of you down, it grabbed me by the hair and pulled me through the mirror," she said with a shudder. "I felt something scratching my face and hands when I tried to fight back, but I was knocked to the ground and dragged along the cold floor by my hair. The ghost tossed me into a dark room. I couldn't see anything, but I felt the ghost clutch my arm, and there was this horrible pain. That's all I remember until I heard your voices and the light came on." She saw the look in our faces and glanced down to her sore arm. She went white, and I thought she would faint again, so I pushed her head between her knees until the dizziness passed. We cleaned up the blood on Sabrina and Alex and Bianca, and then the five of us huddled in the living room for the rest of the night, too scared to sleep. We made up some story in the morning for my parents about bumping into the furniture while playing some game to explain the scratches on my three friends. No one showed them the message on Bianca's arms. We've had other sleepovers since that night, but my friends and I have never tried the Bloody Mary ritual again.
Tombstone Terror. Alan and Matt were ghost hunters. They would visit old cemeteries and see if they could stir up a spirit from an old tombstone. They set up their recorder on a particularly large and ornate headstone and prepared to begin. They were afraid to shine their flashlights on the stone to see the name engraved there, as trespassing in the cemetery at night was illegal. They had crawled over the fence at the rear of the cemetery to avoid the caretaker. Matt flipped on the button on the recorder and said out loud, "We would like to speak to whoever lies beneath this stone." In response, all they heard was a scratching noise to come from behind the tombstone. With a calm voice, Alan said, "Please tell us your name." Again, but the only response was a scratching noise. So Matt said, "We only wish to speak with you. Please show yourself." Suddenly, both men felt the air turn cold, and a tall, dark shadow rose from behind the tombstone. The shadow moved to engulf them. Alan and Matt had many encounters with spirits and were not afraid. Too late, they both realized the apparition meant them harm. The shadow swept down, engulfing them, and pulled them into the ground beneath the tombstone. The next morning, the caretaker of the cemetery found the recorder on the ground by the tombstone. He turned it on, and after each question, he heard the fun response.
"Yes, I am here. My name is never spoken by the living. If I show myself, it will be the last thing you will ever see. I got you both."
The caretaker quickly picked up the recorder, knowing he had the only evidence that someone had been in the cemetery, and by that tombstone. He went to his tool shed and tossed the recorder into the pile with many others. Who knows how many have been taken by this tombstone?
So there you have it, some spooky stories.
So there's All Hallows Night Eve.
So be safe,
And cause a little mischief.
but we want the mortals to relish in it afterwards.
Absolutely. No body counts this year.
Please. Took us ages to bury the last lot. Anyway, I have been TH.
And I'm recurring.
And we hope you have a lovely Halloween. Good luck and sweet nightmares.
Bye, my shadows.